We finally got Simon Limmer on the phone from Silver Fern Farms. Of course, we know the best way to test a farmer's patience is pull their ability to process their stock. Now, Silver Fern Farms are working hard on stabilising their new processing levels in this extreme and unpredictable situation, and want to thank farmers for exactly that, their patience. It's not just about getting through level 4 lockdown, grinding processing capacities back to some 50%. It's also how do we bounce back with an unprecedented, are you sick of that word yet? I am, backlog. Welcome to Sarah's Country, Simon. Thank you so much for your patience in connecting us tonight.
No worries, Sarah. It's a pleasure to join you.
Thank you. We've got obviously a stack of questions. You would only imagine you've been extremely a busy man at the helm of Silver Fern Farms over the last coming months, and I'm sure it has been evolving. Now, I just want to go through all of those because it is, of course, about the audience and what they want to know. Of course, this is following your regular supplier updates that you've been sending out as well. Now, Jeff wants to know, what will level 3 restrictions look like in the processing plant?
Well, it's a really good question, Jeff, because it's something that we still need to work through with MPI and with MIA. As you have already pointed out, we've taken quite a significant step back from a productivity perspective as of 3 weeks ago. But I can tell you that little by little, as the plants have got used to the new operating protocols, they've managed to drive those productivity levels higher and higher. And we're getting back to levels of capacity that we're actually quite satisfied with under the new protocols. But the first thing that we need to be really focused on when we go to level 3 is, can we continue to protect our people who are the real heroes in all this? Because you mentioned the supplier's patience. That's absolutely true. But getting our people to work in a scenario when they're under lockdown has been quite a major shift for us. So first of all, giving them confidence that their welfare is our number one priority is really critical.
So we had Mel Crode from Agri HQ on the show last week, and James was listening to that podcast episode, and he said, well, she talked a lot about the 6-week waiting space for cow, but doesn't seem to think that that's right for prime or bull, and some plants aren't even processing bull at all at the moment. Is that correct?
No, we're processing across the whole country. The North Island and the South Island, the waiting times are a little bit different. That's just a function of what often happens. What we are seeing, a lot of what we're seeing is market related as well. So as you know, there's been a big shift in the market away from food services, which is typically those prime cuts, so the steak cuts, the tenderloins, all of those high-end items. And it's more of a retail focus at the moment because people are eating at home. So that has shifted the market demand a little bit, but from a processing perspective, hasn't really changed things too much from our side. But North Island waiting time's still relatively long at 2 to 3 weeks, and it's even worse than the South Island just at the moment, 4 to 6 weeks. But we're working through those, and really it's just a matter of the suppliers staying in close contact with their livestock reps and ensuring that they're clear on what the plans are looking like.
Okay, well, I suppose this gets into a chunky question from Linda. She's trying to get her head around, usually when market demand is dropping overseas, store prices weaken here at home, and we tend to reduce capacity to limit our exposure to these markets. Yet right now, the market's in turmoil, and we're still trying to keep that capacity pumping through amid long wait times and falling farm gate prices.
So I think, there's a lot of things getting quite a lengthy question.
Yes, yeah.
A lot going on there. I think the first thing is that we really, the best thing we can do for farmers is reflect what's going on in the markets back through the processing costs, the schedule prices. So we really do endeavour to send those market signals back to farmers based on what the reality is as to what their product's earning in the market. I think the second thing is that we live with the reality that as a grass-fed producing nation, the grass curve is really defining when livestock is ready for processing, and therefore capacity is also driven by the sheer reality that volumes coming on around Christmas time and through that autumn period. So we're still living with that capacity issue at the moment. So it's just the balancing act between what the market returns are looking like and our ability to process with capacity at that time.
Animal welfare has obviously been very predominant, with the focus on the essential service of independent butchers being in the spotlight. Of course, we're going into a period of cull cows as dairy farmers are drying off. Are you helping to prioritise them over prime stock?
Yeah, look, I think the priority here really just needs to be the availability of feed for farmers. I think, everyone's circumstance is a little bit different, and as we move around the country, we're seeing different pressures coming to bear on farmers and on our processing capacity. So we're not necessarily prioritising based on anything beyond that. And of course, again, it just comes back to those guys working very closely with their livestock teams and ensuring that they have clarity as to what the timing is and make plans accordingly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I spoke to Rob Hewitt, chairman of Silver Fern Farms, some weeks back on the podcast, Simon, was about this being an important time around shareholder loyalty in terms of space. Is that still very much the case around prioritising of shareholders first?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously working with people who have been part of our team for a long, long time, and typically they're long-term suppliers and typically they're shareholders, and they've got very strong relationships with the company, and they're able to make their plans accordingly. I think that's a really important relationship, and it just holds that those people who are probably working hand in hand with the company are going to get a better outcome at the end of the day.
Sorry about that. So what would be some of the key messages that you would like to get out to farmers at the moment who are starting to get extremely frustrated with space, and how to accordingly sort of plan the best they can?
Well, the first thing that they need to be doing is working very closely with their livestock reps, ensuring that their needs are clearly understood, understanding what the capacity is of the various different processing plants in their regions, and ensuring that they get a sense as to what the waiting time could be so that they can plan accordingly. Probably they may have certain stock that they need to get off earlier than others. It's really just a matter of trying to work into a system which is very complicated at the moment. And I don't want to say it again, but these are unprecedented times, as you mentioned earlier. We're doing everything that we can. We have worked over the Easter period for the first time in living memory, from what I'm told. We've got overtime. We're putting on additional capacity to the best of our ability. Again, though, our first responsibility is making sure that we're keeping our people safe in the plants. And then our second responsibility is to making sure that we're prioritising those farmers who are under real pressure at the moment. So I think if people can understand that that's the reality of the situation, then they'll be well served.
Can I just say, on behalf of rural New Zealand, thank you so much to you, Simon, for all of the hard work that you and your team are putting in. Very much from the deep part of our hearts, we all appreciate that. It certainly would not be an easy job right now. So thank you so much for taking the time to join Sarah's Country tonight, and we look forward to catching up soon.
This is Sarah's Country.